To all those people watching, I would like to remind everyone that this video is not made strictly for kids. It is for older fans and adults too. Enjoy the fucking video! This video is brought to you by my loyal patrons. Register now at any tier to watch new videos 1 month in advance before they're made public. Link is in the description. One day, Mr. Roger Sam came to the sheds with some news. The art director for the television show will be coming to the island of Sodor this week. He had been commissioned by a company in Japan to come up with new attractions at their theme park based on the show over there. He will be looking for some inspiration here on our railway, so I want you to treat him well. Yes, sir, replied the engines. All the engines had heard about theme parks from their crews, especially the big ones like Disneyland, Disney World, and the ones in both Paris and Japan. They could hear their crews talking about the attractions they had been on when they were on holidays with their families. Have you ever ridden on Big Thunder Mountain? One of them asked. Oh yes, replied another. That was fun, especially when you turned the very tight corners. Oh, what a thrill that was. They both laughed, even the little engines. That does sound exciting, replied Peter Sam happily. I wish I could see that. So do I, agreed Skarloey. But we are engines. Roller coasters are no place for us. By the sound of that attraction they're talking about, I think we might end up being more damaged than happy. Well, if you ask me, replied Duncan crossly, it sounds more exciting than this railway line. You heard what Skarloey had said, Duncan, replied Rhenius crossly. We are engines. Our place is here on the railway. We weren't built for roller coasters. Duncan was cross, and he puffed away to do his work. If you ever visit the island of Sodor and are interested in the stories from the various railways, then you should visit the Railway Archives. It's a treasure trove of stories over the years with all of the engines across the island of Sodor, big or small. Let's take a look at all the stories that are a blast from the past for the engines of Sodor. Later that week, the art director from the television show came to the island on Gordon's Express from London. They stopped at Crovan's Gate where he disembarked. Mr. Roger Sam greeted him and told him that he could travel around the railway trying to find inspiration for as long as he wants. Thank you, he said kindly. Sony wants me to find something that will be a roller coaster, but of course being a theme park for children it has to be something not too thrilling. The first train of the day was a workman's train to the Blue Mountain Quarry. Duncan was to take it. He was still brooding about his conversation he had about roller coasters with the other engines. The art director had asked permission to be on the train, and was accepted. So he sat down and got out his pad and pencil ready for drawing. Once the workmen were aboard, Duncan puffed away. While the art director was looking for inspiration, Duncan's mood hadn't changed since leaving the station. Pah! He huffed. During the journey, the art director had been drawing all the things he had seen along the way for new attractions, but still couldn't find what to use for a roller coaster. They at last came to the quarry. Duncan stopped at the station and the workmen disembarked from the train, while the art director stayed in his seat as Duncan puffed away to turn around on a balloon loop ready for the journey back to Crovan's Gates. There was still some time before Duncan was to make the journey back, so the driver closed the regulator while the fireman shoveled coal into Duncan's firebox to make more steam and then cleaned all the gauges. However, Duncan's driver can be forgetful, and as he was about to head to the guard's van to collect some bacon and eggs to cook for breakfast in the firebox, he saw the regulator again. "Better close that," he said. He didn't know, but we know, don't we? While Duncan was resting, he then felt his wheels beginning to move. This surprised him. The driver noticed that the guard's van was passing towards him as he was nearing it. He stopped, turned round, and gasped when he saw Duncan moving. "Oh no!" he cried and tried to run towards him, but Duncan was building up speed as he neared the slope leading towards the entrance. The art director saw this too and was surprised to see the driver and fireman racing towards the train. Duncan, however, smirked. "Whee!" he cheered as he felt himself rushing down the slope. He was having the time of his life, but the coaches weren't. "Stop! Stop! Stop!" they wailed. The guard in the van applied the brake, but Duncan was going so fast that he couldn't slow down. The art director was shocked by this and placed his drawing book under the seat so none of the pages could be blown out of the window. But Duncan was giddy from excitement. "This is much more fun!" he cheered. "Alright, driver, you can slow down now," he said. But there was no response. And then he realised, "What the? I can't stop! Help! Help!" Some passengers were waiting at a nearby station. They were to head for Gate. They heard Duncan's puffing, but were surprised to see him coming in fast and shouting for help. He sped through the station. The guard radioed a signalman and told him about the runaway. Luckily, there was a crossing and a tractor was about to cross with a cartload of hay. The signalman raced towards him and asked him if they could use his hay to stop Duncan. "All right," grumbled the tractor, and so they quickly unloaded the hay onto the line. After that, the tractor raced away from the crossing to avoid being hurt. Duncan could see the hay as they were nearing it, and he shut his eyes. Luckily, no one was hurt. Soon, workmen came to help clear the line. Duncan's crew arrived and saw Mr. Roger Sand with Skarloey and the works train. When Duncan's driver told him what he had done, he spoke to him crossly, and then severely when he found out that the art director and the guard were on board. But the art director smiled when he saw Duncan. "Now I know what inspiration I would use for the roller coaster that Sony wants for their theme park. But it won't be wild as yours, Duncan." "That's fine," sighed Duncan, and he looked towards Skarloey and winked. Skarloey smiled. Duncan was back in action after his thrill ride. His driver now remembers full on to leave the regulator closed at all times. Meanwhile in Japan, the roller coaster was opened and was called Rock and Roll Duncan. Duncan's crew had shown him pictures of it and later some videos of it in action. Some of those children had even visited the island and were really excited to see him. He was sad when his model was replaced by a model version of Nia. But he was still happy that many children in Japan had gotten to ride on it.